Howdy.
Hey, John, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. We can hear each other okay without any debugging. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly.
Like, how many engineers does it take to get the audio right on on a video conference? And I think the answer is more than 10.
At least we didn't have to do any craziness like Jay. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but that's a Jay thing too, I think.
Yeah, I thought about doing more live, and I do have more set up to do live, but it's so stressful to like give the presentation and focus on you're basically a live production studio.
Yes,
And
this is 360 TV.
yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. All right. So, for those of you who haven't maybe checked the schedule, you are watching Josh and I do our kind of state of the conference slash fireside chat. We've done this. Is this our second or third time doing this?
I just don't remember because I think we did something like it, and then we did it, and we're like, okay, this is the format. And I don't remember if we followed the exact format again, but here we are today again in a different format,
Exactly.
with similar goal.
And there is a fire.
Yes, there is a fire right down here on this side of me.
Yeah. Well, cool. How have you been?
Good overall. Extremely busy. Have managed to get myself into one of those situations where too many things are going on at the same time. It's it's something I try really, really hard to avoid, because you can't do great work when you're multitasking between too many projects. But sometimes the demands of your projects just happen to kind of line up all at the same time, even when you're not trying for that to happen, as is the case today. And so it just is what it is. That's part of the indie life.
Yep, very true. You don't try to say no too often.
I will say the good news is I don't have a flood of support requests, which is, that's the biggest thing I'm anxious about on our release day is that, something's wrong to the point that I'm getting 10 to 20 mails per hour. And then the problem has to be managed at the same time as communicating with people about it. And that's always my worst nightmare. It hasn't really happened many times. But yeah, try to avoid it.
Yeah. So it's a good motto. Don't have those problems.
So how are you doing? I mean, you've been running this thing all week. How are you feeling?
Good. It's less stressful, but it's a different kind of stress. Which honestly it's kind of nice. Like I wouldn't trade this for seeing everyone in person and dealing with all of the other stuff that I deal with for the in-person side. But this is definitely pretty fun. Like I get up and I'm far less stressed each morning. I'm in my office, which is nice and comfortable. But yeah, it's been a big learning curve. I've never done any other. This is only the second one of these we've done, and so it's a lot of trying to figure out a tech stack that works, covers everything it needs to cover, doesn't suck, isn't too user unfriendly, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, the physical logistics problems are gone. But now you have these media and digital logistics problems, which are different. But overall, I have to say that having good internet the whole time, compared to fighting with the conference internet problem, it's really nice to have someone reference something in a video and then I can go look it up or download it, without having to remember to do it when I get home because I can't do it right now in the venue. So it's so interesting. Just kind of going into the format. I participated in a month-long unconference in June that was all video-based with about 250 people. And over the course of the month, I got to observe everyone attempt to teach in different ways using this medium. And it was really intriguing to see how effective some people could be once they really master the art of live presentation, using the OBS broadcast tool and all these other things. Like I got to watch some people who like really had it down. But at the same time, it was terrifying because you can't expect teachers to have these skills. You can't expect all of a sudden that a teacher who is teaching in a classroom now knows how to produce media, yet alone give like a live media mixed performance. So I'm really dumbfounded for the teacher's position here. It's got to be an extreme challenge to be thrown in with, all this new technology and no time to sort out, what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, and most of them like OBS, and I used Ecamm, or I was going to, and they're fine, but they're not exactly like user friendly. They're not Apple products.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're not user friendly. Like there's a huge market open now. I'd call the product like Keynote Studio, but basically a tool designed for both recording and live, professionally produced presentations that any teacher could use. That you wouldn't have to go to a seminar or take a week-long class to learn how to use it. I mean, think about the difference between the people who produce like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and their knowledge of how you get kids' attention and attach them, and then the teacher's experience. Like it's a really difficult situation.
Yeah, and then on top of that, trying to juggle doing like this. Like just now, I kind of glanced over to the Slack to see what's going on, but I mean, there's tons of stuff, and you're on camera, so you're like, oh, I don't want to like clearly.
I don't want to look like my attention is gone, but I like do have these things to manage, and actually that comes out in my talk later. I had like 3 different screens that I used in recording, and I actually love the pictures people posted of boxes under their computer, because I literally did the same thing. I just figured out the right stacking of boxes that, as best it could, get me at eye level with the screen and the other monitor. But it's really fun to figure this out, and I'm really impressed by the variety of kind of productions that have been done in the conference. Joe definitely took it to the next level in terms of Apple quality production yesterday. And there have been a number of other, just very well produced and well done videos and sessions.
Yeah, I've been amazed at what everybody's done. And it's funny, I know a lot of folks used which I feel like is the dumbest name you could possibly give.
I'm not familiar with it. What is it?
It's basically like, and I've not played with it because I didn't want to go down a rabbit hole, but it's basically OBS Ecamm, but as a more Apple type app, like it's
packaged together. Okay, cool.
And tons of really cool whiz bang effects. And a lot of the talks that you saw that probably were like, oh wow, that's some high production value. A lot of those, with the exception of Joe's, which is all Final Cut, were in.
Okay, cool. I'll have to check that out. I was super impressed by what OBS could do, and I felt like I had a superpower once I learned it and was able to use it. But even in coming to this today, I was like, well, should I set up OBS and should I have the stress of like, maybe mixing in some videos or some photos? And I'm like, I want to have a conversation, and it's going to be hard enough to do that well.
So. Yep, I had the same. I was doing the same math last week of like, should I use Ecamm? I can get kind of whiz bang. StreamYard does a lot of what I really needed Ecamm for, which is like the lower thirds and kind of
it gets the basics right.
Kind of things, yeah. So the one thing I've done, which I haven't played with at all, is I have Minicam installed. Oh, maybe I won't even do it. Oh, there, because I had webcam. It's a 1080 webcam, which I did not want 1080 that close to my face.
Right.
But I was like, 10, and it's wide, so I was like, it'd be perfect for capturing my office. Not a lot of use for that, and I won't leave it up forever because now I've got wires dangling all over. But it was kind of fun to play with and do. But Ecamm was more than I needed. Plus, it's so many windows and things. I was like, this will not work. Like, it's going to be way too much for me.
I mean, if you practice
with crap, where did that overlay panel go?
Yep. So, if you practiced it, but that's the thing. This is at least this is not my day job.
Yeah. I hope this does not become my day job.
There's definitely business opportunities, though, particularly in education. I find it. I don't know what's going to happen this fall, but we're really far in the future now. Let's rewind to the past a little bit, because I'm really kind of interested about how things progressed over the course of the pandemic and the year with regards to the conferences that you run. Just to start out with, what was your experience like that week that everything kind of shut down in the United States?
There was a lot of internal FUD going on in my head. I have an event, or I would normally have an event in April, and so the team that I kind of have put together to help me with that, it's my Chicago Roboto Android event. There's a lot of like, okay, well, what are we gonna do? Like, are we confident? Like, will April be okay? Right around those discussions, companies started, restricting travel, so speakers were starting to fall off. So it was like, but no attendees yet asked for refunds. And we were about like a month out. Like this was like early March. And I was like, well, they don't seem worried, but others are very
Yeah.
worried. So we pulled the plug. We postponed it until September, thinking that would be safe, and now it's an online event. So I could have done it in April, but
Well, you could have done it in April if you knew how to do online events like
this is true.
immediately. You otherwise would have had to just cram and
Yeah.
try to figure this out very, very quickly.
And I'm very glad that we postponed for that factor, because so then from March until July, I've had that time to try platforms, try apps, like figure out what I'm doing. Figuring all that out in less than a month would have been very stressful.
Yep. Yeah, I think I made the right choice. I'll say for me, kind of the comparable thing is I do visuals for a Pink Floyd tribute band, Pigs on the Wing, and we had a whole tour scheduled for the year. One show every month, at least. Some months, 2 shows. And right as this started going down, I just didn't believe the United States would shut down. I just thought that America was so capital first and so business first that I really didn't think it was going to happen. It was really shocking to me. I was like, the rest of the world could shut down and America could just be like, we're going ahead. So it's not that I didn't think it was the right thing to do. I was just really surprised it was going to happen. But as soon as it started happening, it was clear that this was going to change at least the whole year. So I actually had some back and forth with some of the people in the band very early on. I was like, we just need to cancel the whole year now. Like there's no point in having anxiety across the whole year and trying to decide when it's going to be okay and when it's not going to be okay. Like we can just do the tour next year, but to postpone a tour a whole year, and we're a small operation. Imagine like big bands, touring acts, and how they dealt with it. So I was in right away. Like we just need to cancel everything now. Like we don't need the stress of trying to figure this out over the year. And actually, everything didn't all finally get canceled until like 2 months ago. Because you want that optimism that maybe something magical is going to change and you're going to be able to get out there and do it. But the writing was on the wall, unfortunately, pretty early.
Yeah, and like you say on the stress, like you don't want, like Nicole's company until recently had been every 2 weeks reevaluating, going back. And I was like, that makes no sense. Nothing is going to happen between one set of 2 weeks and the next. Like, and you're just stressing everyone out of like, oh crap, are they going to announce I have to go back and now I have to figure out childcare, whatever else. So they finally were like, okay, 2021. Like,
I mean, that to be fair to people, if the business is capable of functioning remotely, I mean, I read some stat that something like 37% of all jobs are capable of functioning in some way remotely. So it's not the majority. It's more than 60% that cannot function remotely. But I'm really impressed with the bigger companies for just jumping in with it. I just did not expect it in America. I really did not.
I didn't either. I'm really optimistic, although I was just reading that Amazon is like doubling down on buying office space around the country. So they may be the outlier, but I was really optimistic that so many companies went remote and were like, we're going to be remote through July of 2021. So I'm like, now, like all of those old like prejudices and like, well, 3 years ago, Tony worked from home and didn't do any work. So we have a no remote policy.
Yep.
It's like now everyone is kind of stepping up and showing that it's doable. Like we don't need to be in offices.
In a decade of working from home, both independently and on contracts, the one thing that I've learned for certain about working at home is that teams that are all remote can do it effectively. When the team is not entirely remote, depending on the number of remote people, there's a misbalance. And it's just very, very hard to work out. But if everyone's remote, it's a level playing field. This idea that you need to be seen in person no longer creates an advantage, because there's this perceptual thing like George Costanza showing up at work and sleeping under the desk. Like you gotta to be there for people to see you, even if you're home working hard. If they don't see you doing it, it doesn't translate the same way. So, for the industries and areas where this transition has happened, it's great. I talk about this more in my talk later, but it's impressive. It's impressive. So back to that shutdown week. What was like your last memory of the old world?
Oh man, I feel like most of it I kind of blocked out, but I definitely remember just kind of watching the news. And again, like I've worked from home forever, so I was just basically where I am right now. And so it was just watching kind of, news posted to Facebook and Twitter and things of like, all right, well, my company is gone remote. Like we've closed, like, and then I'm on a few Denver specific things. And so like, we started to see like, okay, we're doing this, 16th Street Mall is now, officially closed. And so just one thing after the other. And it was just like, at the time, like, God, this is like end of the world.
Yeah.
What is this going to be like now?
Yeah. It felt like collapse. It felt like quick collapse.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, my experience had some interesting flavor to it. I went to the last Portland Trailblazers game the day before the NBA shut down. There was so little COVID in Oregon that I just did not feel it was that risky at that point. Then the NBA shut down the next night. But I went to a small concert that night, again, because, there was just not that much COVID in Portland. And I'm so happy I did those two things because they're there at that point. But really, the thing that was funny was we had a band rehearsal planned, full band production rehearsal planned for that weekend at a theater. The last production rehearsal before we were going on tour. And so that week, members were slowly dropping out of the rehearsal. And by the end, it was only 5 of us who went. We only did a lights and visuals production rehearsal. But that morning, I went to, it was snowing in Portland. And if it's snowing in Portland, you don't drive because there are hills and no one knows how to drive in snow. It was snowing that morning. I'm like, the world is telling us not to go. I go over to the house, we get in the van, we pull out of the driveway, like 2 blocks down, the trailer falls off the back of the van, middle of the street. Like literally everything in the world is saying like, don't do this, stay home. But the show must go on, and we did it. And actually, it was a fantastic memory because it was kind of like this concert at the end of the world where there were just like 5 of us there, not knowing what was going to happen next.
Yeah, one of my on the side, I also do events, and we do Ignite Denver, and our show, we debated. It was in March, and it was the 11th, I think. Yeah, and that was like right on the brink, and we like, do we do it? Do we not? And like we worked with the theater, and so we did our best. Like there was hand sanitizer, and like we spaced everyone. Well, I don't think we were doing spacing quite much yet, but we definitely were like, be safe, wash your hands. Here's hand sanitizer at the door. We didn't do a food truck of any kind. It was like just come in and enjoy the show. And I'm glad, like you say, I'm glad we did, because the next day that theater was like, that's it, we're closed.
Yeah.
City, that was the next day. The city was like, yeah, bars, theaters, gyms, it's all done now.
It's like the scene in the movie where the door is coming down and you're like rolling under the door before it clamps down. I acknowledge there was risk involved in the decisions I made. But
we didn't know then quite what those, like how big those risks were. Like now it's like looking back, it's like, yeah, maybe canceling thankfully, as far as we know, that we were not a vector of any kind, but yeah, you're like, I don't know
I don't know. It's tough. It's really tough. So like, I want to talk for a minute about some of my favorite things about society that have changed as a result. And I'm interested to hear some of yours. I'll start with mine. First off, I've always been afraid of germs.
Oh,
like I'm someone who wears gloves on the bus or the subway to hold the pole. I had a bad streak of kind of getting flus over time and just became really obsessive about this stuff anyway. So for me now, it's awesome that everyone else is obsessive too, because it doesn't feel as different to be paying that much attention, and it means that everyone else is safer. The other one that stands out for me is, it used to be if I was walking down the street and I saw someone cross to the other side, or maybe I crossed to the other side. There's this social anxiety about, is that person avoiding me? Am I avoiding them? Now if someone crossed the other side, I was like, oh, hey, cool. Yeah, thank you for crossing to the other side. So I guess there are all sorts of social weirdnesses with me that actually function better in this.
I will say, pretty more. I mean, less on the germ side, although that certainly I am glad that more people might be washing their hands more frequently and taking it seriously. But I do like that, staying in now is not like, oh, you're just a weirdo that doesn't go out or want to do things. It's like, no, that's now just everyone's more, maybe not necessarily happy about staying in, but at least everyone's doing it. And so, yeah. And same, when we go for walks, which that was kind of one upside, is now Nicole and I take walks every day.
Me too. It's great.
But yeah, people cross the street, or sometimes we'll like side eye the people that don't, and then then we're like, you don't have a mask, and you didn't even make an attempt to
what are you doing?
Over. We were joking one time. Now we've all, especially with masks on, like from a distance. Now there's like this hand jive of like cueing, like you're coming towards someone, and so we'll start to veer off if they don't look like they're veering off. But then they're like, no, I'll do this, you stay.
Yeah.
And like, we don't. They veer off, and it's all good. And like we did that a block away with just hand gestures. So
it's like four cars showing up at a stop sign at exactly the same time. There's just this like awkwardness as to how to negotiate the movement. But yeah, it's
exactly.
Yeah, that the flip side, it's as someone who's worked from home for a long time, one of the benefits of working from home is that you could kind of go out into society during the 9 to 5 hours and do things like grocery shop, and there aren't a lot of people there, and go to all sorts of different places 9 to 5. And this was like a great hack for people who worked at home, was there are all these services that are underserviced from 9 to 5, so you go when everyone else is at work, and you take advantage of that, and that's lost.
Yeah, the best was like going to the bank in the middle of the day. You're like, this is lovely. Like, you go to the bank at like 2 and no one's there. Now everyone's there.
Well, it's selfish to complain about that, but I do have like minor memories of my experience being on the early internet, and then all of a sudden everyone's on the internet, and it does feel a little bit similar here. Like, okay, I've been working at home for like a decade. Oh wow, no, okay, everyone else is here now too.
Yeah.
So welcome. It's awesome for a lot of people. Not perfect for everyone, but it's for a lot of folks. It's good.
Yeah, we were pretty lucky. Like, obviously, I've worked from home forever, or almost ever, and then Nicole, even in several previous jobs, including her current one, didn't necessarily work from home all the time, but did 1 or 2 days a week on average. So, like, we already had an office set up for her in the other bedroom. She has a standing desk. She had 2 monitors. Like, she had a setup that was ready, and like a lot of her coworkers were like, "Oh hell, I don't know what to do." And she was like, day one, like, boom, laptop up, screen. She's like, "I'm good,
ready to go." Yeah, it's like it's a level of like literacy or fitness to be immediately capable of functioning in this way, and it's translatable to other jobs. It's a huge advantage if you were working from home before and you know how to do it, and you've entered this market now where working from home is in this particular industry increasingly standard.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how much time do we have? We just kind of float into this.
We have 20 minutes left.
Okay, great, because we're still on like question 1 of the topics.
That sounds right. One of these.
You have slides you wanted to go through to do a general overview, or you want to just kind of keep flowing with this?
We can just keep flowing. I'll pull up my. Did I make Wednesday slides? Oh, I did. I will pull them up so I can work in that info. But
so, I mean, let me kind of transition a bit here to this kind of question about business and what it's like having a business through COVID and the kind of decisions that you have to make. How are you feeling about your business at the start of this, and then kind of now at this juncture, having gotten through a couple of these online sessions?
Good, optimistic. We were joking. A few of us were on Zoom last night, just watching each other drink beers at our desks, which is what you do now. And I was like, as much as I want to see everyone, and if 2021 allows in person, that will be the thing. But I was like, man, I don't hate this 0 or next to 0 overhead of these. I was like, future 360s in person might just be a tent and a field. That part has been really nice. I mean, the downside is I wasn't coming into it necessarily super flush. And so thankfully we did, I did take advantage of the PPP loan.
Which is a great deal. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah. If this had all happened like now, it would have been different for me. But beginning of the year is like, I'm coming off of 360 iDev, which is in August. And so from August to April, I have nothing. And so suddenly it's like, and now, very few people are wanting to sponsor. No one was buying tickets until they knew what I was up to. So ticket sales ground to a halt. All of that just kind of started to compound. And I was like, oh shit, like I don't know if I'll even be able to exist to make this pivot without some help. So thankfully, like I did, the government loans and grants and stuff have been a huge help. Part of, and timing wise, it was a little tricky because, like everything shut down in March, including hotels. So I couldn't even talk to the Grand Hyatt to evaluate options. There was no one there. Like they had a temporary email, but that was it. So I had to wait. I didn't even talk to them until they initially, and they pulled the plug and were like, in March said May. We're not even going to try 2 weeks or monthly. We're waiting. Mid-May is the first time we're even going to look at reopening. So I had to wait until then to even be able to say, what are the options here? Like I have a contract with you that does, there wasn't a lot of wiggle room in like what an act of God was.
But this is kind of in the domain.
Yeah. So thankfully they were like, yeah, we get it. So they didn't hold my feet to the fire, as it were, on the contract. But I couldn't even make any real announcements until mid-May. So then my runway was short, and then had to pivot on speakers and honorariums versus travel expenses and all kinds of stuff. But I'm more optimistic than I was in March as far as what my future held.
That's great. I'll make 2 comments as someone who's attended a number of online programs. The first program I attended this summer at NYU was supposed to start in person in June. And they announced at the beginning of May, NYU has called off all on campus, so we have to do something different. And so we're gonna do this thing online. And because a big component of it is having access to physical labs and art creation materials, there's a big question, like, will this work? And the organizers of that, I spoke to them, and they had said that they didn't think people were going to sign up, that they thought the whole nature of what the program was not going to be attractive online. And so, the initial email they sent that said it was going online said, we've cut the price in half, but there's no maximum now to the number of people who can attend, which is great. But we do have to have a minimum because we've got to pay administrative fees. So there has to be a minimum threshold of signups.
Yeah.
It turned out like the total signups were like 4 or 5 times past that threshold. In large part because this program is in New York, and typically to participate, you had to travel to New York, which is expensive and time consuming. And now that you didn't, a lot more people jumped in.
Yeah.
So the accessibility of it, the fact that anyone in the world without paying for travel, hotel, can get to it, opens up the market and opens up availability. And I think that presents a positive future for events that are able to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I've been really impressed and surprised. I wish that we had come in 4 or 5 times normal. We did not do that, but we definitely came in. I mean, we're almost on par with the in-person. So
that's phenomenal. Given that this is a completely different format, it's a whole different product. That's to me, that's unbelievable. But that reflects what I'm seeing as I talk to people in all sorts of different businesses. Is there are businesses that are completely destroyed by this. Where there just is not an easy way out.
Yeah.
But there are other businesses that are ultimately benefactors, or are seeing new opportunities that they can pursue now under this model. So it's going to be a very interesting 12 months, for 12 to 48 months even maybe, as this pans out and we see how society kind of settles and business settles in this new model.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the factors when we were looking at the September thing was like, even if, and this was kind of before America became Florida man of the world.
Right.
But, even before that, it was like, even if September is fine, who wants to travel? Like,
exactly. Or who wants to go to a concert, right?
Yeah.
Like if you can't have a concert in December, like, is it 50% fewer people are going to come? Is it 90% fewer people are going to come?
Yeah.
Like, it's difficult math, and it's not like the fans don't want to come. But
right.
Like, I'll tell you, as this was going down, I had a number of email exchanges with friends who I'd recommended conferences to. Because often if somebody's looking for something, I'm like, oh, I know a great conference, you should go to it for this. I started getting emails like, well, should I still get a ticket because it's not clear? And I was like, man, it's hard to recommend buying into something that you don't know what it is or what it's going to be. I mean, but once a 6 months or a year of this pass and this format of online event is kind of understood and sussed out, I mean, I thought Apple did a great job with WWDC. I thought it was better than the in-person one. I really thought that so many things were improved as a result of the format change there.
I will say, as a non-developer anymore, I didn't even watch any of the videos because I was like, those never applied to me, and I never.
Right.
So I was like, the downside for me was obviously none of the social stuff.
Yep.
But the fact that they did it, I thought was impressive. Because like Google just was like, nope, I.O.'s off. We're not even. That's it. Yep. So I was impressed with Apple, especially at just the scale. Like moving 360 online is one thing.
Yeah,
this is a different beast.
This is what would have been like 7,000 people in person, but now is scaling to like potentially millions, right? It's like immediately going from a 5,000 person conference to a 1 million person conference. The fact that the labs worked out was unbelievable. I mean, just there were so many facets of it. I was like, how is this going to work? And sure enough, every time, and I sent them a note afterwards. I was like, I don't know if you're going to keep this format, but this felt a lot better to me. Particularly because it's truly accessible to everyone. If you do believe the mantra that all developers are treated equally, you can't have like a tier of people who can spend $1,500 on a conference ticket, maybe a couple $1,000s even to fly to San Francisco from another country, hotel in San Francisco. I mean, it could be a $10,000 excursion. And that ends up being a dividing line between developers when that exists there. So I'd be perfectly happy if that line was eliminated. And all developers had equal access to the services and materials of WWDC.
Yeah, that would be excellent.
But yeah, I was nervous for them. Boy, was I was just like, oh, how are they going to do this?
Hey, like that's kind of the biggest draw. Like the sessions are already on video like a day later anyways, but labs is kind of the big draw. And
it worked.
Same thing. It went really well. I knew a few folks that were on the Apple side of doing labs, and they were like, yeah, you get the link and you go on and you're on cam and you do it and you're done. Like it flowed well.
I had a conversation with one of the people from Apple in the lab I was in who mentioned that one of the aspects for them is that over the course of their day, they're meeting with people from all over the world. So as opposed to being like physically on their home turf and having other people physically come to them, they're seeing people from all over the world in all sorts of different time zones with all sorts of different first languages, and they're seeing them back to back to back, which has to be an intriguing experience when you're doing these like 15 or 30-minute sequential sessions for multiple days. So hats off to Apple for what they did there. I thought they did a really good job. Speaking about Apple, there's a lot of complaining, I guess, and conversation about Apple in the public press right now with regards to antitrust and this other stuff. It just brings to mind there's this really bad old film, Antitrust, that does this take on Bill Gates that's just it's so bad. But anyway, any thoughts on kind of this chaos that's circulating around right now?
I feel like I come down kind of in the middle, because on the one hand, obviously Epic and Spot, everyone who's like kind of in a huff knew what they were getting into. So I feel like it's a little disingenuous to suddenly be like, 30% is unacceptable. It's like, that's been the way for a long time. So you can't come in and then suddenly be upset about it. But the other hand too, I sometimes feel that Apple and Amazon and Google, all of them, also are not necessarily always working in the best interest of the third parties that have gotten them where they are. Whether it's like Sherlocking or acquire and destroy or any of those things. So I feel like it's a tough spot. It's like you got to cough up that money to be in it, but they may do other hinky things down the road, or you may get really rich because your app or your game has become a hit. Like, and there's middle of the road. Like there's just all these variables and you just don't know, but you have to do it. Like I don't envision Apple letting us side load as much as I would love that. I've always thought there should be like a toggle in settings that's like, I know what I'm doing. I'm not a muggle.
Yep.
that would open up prosumer features
and security risks from their point of view. Right. So they made that choice.
You go to the Apple store, they look and they're like, dude, you check this, you slid this little thing over.
Sorry, we can't help you.
Yeah,
I mean, I will comment that Google is in a little better position here because they were able to say, well, they can still offer it through other means.
Yeah,
and it's hard in Apple's world that they don't have that particular defense. But yeah, at the same time, I don't know. My feelings are conflicted about it, and at a point, I started to write a long post about it, and then I remember this talk I gave at AltConf, Deprecated Incorporated, 4 or 5 years ago, and it's about how to deal with Apple when you're in conflict with them. And I went back and I watched the talk, and I was like, oh my god, this is literally exactly. I was writing the talk again, basically, and then I watched this, and I'm like, this is literally exactly it. So if you're interested in more depth, if you Google Deprecated Incorporated, it's one of my more favorite talks. But yeah, it's part of it. I'll just say, as a developer, and I know not all developers feel this way, I don't like being swept into someone else's movement without my input. And it's uncomfortable for me that Epic is going out and saying this is for all developers. They've never asked me once what I want or don't want in the App Store. I mean, Apple surveys me every year. I don't know how much attention they pay to those surveys, but they at least survey me every year. Epic's never asked me a single time what my problems with the App Store are, and at the top of the list is not that 30% cut.
Exactly. Yeah,
it's number 20 or 25 on the list. So if someone wants to start a rebellion against the fact that Feedback Assistant posts don't get responded to, go do it. Go. But I don't like being roped in under the assumption that as a developer I must feel that what they're doing is right or be happy with it.
Yeah, that tends to be one of my problems too. Is it's in these cases it's two giants fighting. And yeah, neither giant necessarily has the best interest of the people they're stomping around on.
Gods fight, peasants die.
Yeah,
and, it's just it's difficult, and I try not to pay attention to it, but it has boiled up to the point that it's come across for me, and yeah, I think people forget when antitrust went after Microsoft, Windows was 90% of the platform, right?
Yeah.
Computer platforms. Has Apple ever been over 13% on?
The last thing I heard this week or last was still 13 or 14.
Yeah, worldwide, iPhone is, I don't know the number, but it's not above 50%. It's not anywhere near 50%. It's below 20. And it actually reminds me of something that Bill Gates told me. He said that when you own 90% of the market, there will always be another 10% of people who want something else. That it's absolutely a guarantee that if you are the market dominator, there will be another 10% filled up with competition. That's just what it means to be the market dominator. So, Apple may be, the richest country in the world by some measures, and they may have the most popular products, but they aren't actually dominant in any of these markets the way that Microsoft was.
Right. Yeah.
So, but I remember working at Microsoft when that trial was going on, and the trial was being played on the monitors in the cafeteria. It was really, it was a messed up period of time, and I don't wish that on any other company, because at the end of the day, the regulations for Microsoft mostly just resulted in them having to hire a ton of people to make a bunch of paperwork to document everything they were doing, so regulatory bodies could review that paperwork and confirm that it was in compliance.
So as in all scenarios like this, the lawyers came out.
They're the winners. Yeah.
If there's a mantra, that's it.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. It's tough. Let's hope this doesn't get more ugly, because there's no need for it. These are professional organizations. You can, it's not. Epic can get a meeting in person with Apple. I guarantee you that if at any juncture right now, whoever is at the head of Epic was I want to have an in-person meeting with someone there, they could get. I can't get that.
Yeah, I mean, they might have a harder time now after their 1984 video.
Well, I mean,
Like,
but if you're Apple and you're going to play your hands right, you still just keep saying this is what the rules are, and if
right.
you
Yeah.
keep breaking them, you can't be in the store. Like you just keep saying this is what the rules are. And I guess the last comment I'll make is they did just change the rules to allow rules to be appealed. So
Which is
I do hope Epic made an attempt to appeal the rule before pulling off the stunt. Because if they didn't follow the new process for appealing the rule, they didn't try in the most standard way first. And you should always try the most standard way first before you make noise.
Agreed. Yeah, for sure. All right, so we have about 2 minutes.
All right, so last question. What are you most looking forward to in 2021?
Well, definitely getting to see everyone in person. Like I said, as much as I enjoy the low overhead aspect of this, I wouldn't trade that for us all being in one room together, drinking overpriced sodas and whatnot. So that's first and foremost. And then I hope that we figure out a way to support all these small businesses. There's a bookstore down the street from our house that has admirably pivoted well. They're lucky that they're also a bar, so they've been able to do some like takeout. Denver's relaxed our public consumption rules.
So you can like drink outside.
Yeah, I mean, that's not legal, but also it's just kind of no one is caring about that right now. And
right.
So a lot of bars are like lemonades with vodka to go, like, which is great now. It's summer. I don't know. That won't fly nearly as well when there's snow on the ground here or it's 10 degrees. But I hope 2021 we see some way to either get our shit together and get past this or figure out a way to support more of these businesses that have far fewer options than I do.
Yep.
Me pivoting was fairly easy. It was like, do I just cancel or do I do online and figure out what Zoom and Hopin and all these other platforms do? Restaurants are a little bit more stuck on how they do it. And the bookstore, same thing. Like they had a patio sale, which again works in August, does not work in February.
Oh man, I didn't even think about how these things change when it becomes winter.
Yeah, I am not looking forward.
I mean, ooh, ouch. All right, I'll give my answer. I hope we start seeing the world collaborate more again. I think we could have, as a planet, done a lot better through this crisis if we were able to have better cooperation between the countries and in the United States, better cooperation between the states and the government. And so the fact that there is so much disharmony and so much kind of miscommunication, undercommunication, uncommunication between the countries of the world right now is really hurting us as a planet and as a species. So I just hope that factors start moving in the direction of, okay, guys, we all are on one planet and we need to figure out how to work together if we're going to keep this operation going. And maybe I'm too optimistic, but I don't think that viewpoint is completely impossible to achieve.
No, yeah, I think that having more adults at the wheel would have helped this a lot. So I too share that optimistic hope that either whether it's us or the rest of the world figures it out, and we just
however it happens, we just get back. Like we're all trying to work together here. We've got this planet. It's amazing. We're trying to figure out how to make it work for all the people who are here and all the people who are coming. So I'm hopeful we can get back there.
Same.
That was a great conversation. I hope the audience out there enjoyed it.
I did. Hopefully everyone else did. I thought I had made slides, but since we were doing this, I forgot to do that. So, but I will say for those that are curious about money stuff, which if you're new, we do. I'm very transparent and talk about that. This has been a tremendously profitable outing for 360 iDev. As I said, there's not a lot of overhead involved, which is nice. Like, Hopin is a few $100, Zoom is it's all nothing on the scale of $10,000 for sodas and snacks or any of those things. So the future is not dim at all, thankfully. And so thank you all for buying tickets. It also being so low overhead, I was able to do things I couldn't normally do, which is, the pay what you want ticket for people that might not have the resources. Layoffs are happening in IT just as much as everywhere else right now. So that was nice to be able to do that. Yeah. So yeah, we're doing fine. This was very, very profitable to do online. I will still trade it in a heartbeat to be in the same room with you all, but this was a close second, and I hope you guys have all had a good time enjoying the last 3 or 4 days if you did the Sunday stuff. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the day. We've got the next session. Let me pull up the schedule. AJAZ will be on at 12:30, so we've got about 15 minutes break to stretch your legs, get a drink, do whatever you got to do. Josh, as always, man, I wish we were in person so we could hug, but this was awesome.
Yeah, thanks, man. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for kind of pulling this off and making it happen. I hope if it does go back to in person, you consider the possibility of an event that is online.
We were joking. I mean, I definitely am into it, and I will have to have like a $2,000 online option just so I can pay for shitty hotel internet that's good enough. But yeah, no, I am in. That is another thing I'm looking forward to in 2021 is to see if I can figure out some hybrid approach. Yeah. It's kind of like Dub. Like, I like that there are people attending from Europe that didn't have to do all the other stuff. And
welcome everyone.
Staying up late like that.
Yep. Welcome everyone.
So yeah, exactly. Well, cool. All right, everyone.
I'll see you again later today too. So
yeah, looking forward to your talk. I scrubbed through the video to make sure that I hadn't messed anything up. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward.
I went a little wild. Sorry in advance.
Excited. Awesome. All right. Thank you, sir.
Later. Have a great day. Have a great rest of the day, everyone.